Alright. So, problems inherent in democracy.
Uh-huh. Yada yada.
I don't know why people keep on thinking democracy is the most advanced system of social organization that we have managed to get to so far. I mean,
We're not a democracy.
I mean, I did this, 14 years ago, I think, give or take, with Barack Hussein Obama.
You're gonna fall off the
One
ladder.
of the most popular presidential candidates ever. I think he had a total of 19% of the electorate behind him whenever he got started. Very, very popular.
He's talking.
And to say he had support of 19% of the electorate is huge. I mean, nobody has those numbers anymore.
You gonna finish drilling that?
Nobody has those numbers anymore. But more recently, there was this lady by the name of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's in Georgia. And catching a lot of flack for going into Congress and
making them actually
revealing how
vote.
the sausage is made. People don't like that for some reason.
Oh, the screw is long enough.
Yeah, the screw's long enough.
Okay.
And she was saying that she currently had
Got you there.
72% approval from her district. And support of 72% of her district. That's a huge number.
So it's like 75% or some that don't like her?
No, 72%. 72% approval.
But there's like 25% that don't like her?
Oh, it would be 28%.
28%.
Well, either don't like her or don't care or would just prefer to have somebody else.
Uh-huh.
Hang on a second. Now, I don't know what she got elected with. Probably a lower number than that.
Most people don't vote.
A lot of people don't vote for a reason. Hang on a second. That's a whole conversation right there. But I can't help but feel a little,
Alright, so I'm trying to put that on something better.
feel a little sadness, a little concern, maybe even a little moral outrage for that 28%. Let me get this out of the way. I don't want to accidentally fall on it.
Oh, now you care about the impalement.
Yeah, the impalement injury.
You didn't care earlier about it.
So there's 700,000 people in her district. She has 72% approval, which means 28% not approval.
Mm-hmm.
That's 28,000 out of every 100,000 of her constituents, or just short of 200,000 people living in the state of Georgia that are not being adequately represented to their satisfaction by their presumed representative. Even though she is the one that's up there on Capitol Hill requiring that all members of Congress come forward and record their dang votes. Right?
I don't know how that works.
28% or close to 200,000 people are suffering under the tyranny of Marjorie Taylor Greene, because who knows, maybe they're idiots, they've got the wrong idea. I don't know. I'm not going to judge them, but I know that they expressed their displeasure with her being in charge. So yeah, voting is horrible. It creates victims every single time. There's somebody that is not getting properly served to their satisfaction by government whenever you have votes.
You know what I'm saying?
Unless, of course, it's unanimous. If we had unanimity, hey, I can't talk. If we had unanimity, that would be a different story. But we very rarely ever have some unanimity. The closest we ever came to unanimity in a presidential vote was the election of, can you guess who?
Obama?
No.
Oh, Biden.
No.
Oh, shit. Washington?
No.
Franklin?
No.
Jefferson?
Nope.
I don't know.
Abraham Lincoln. Second term.
Oh. Because they had that... Only half the country was allowed to vote or something like that. That was so messed up.
The southern states weren't part of the United States at that time.
Yeah.
They had their own thing going. Speaking of which, there was not a Civil War. We keep on saying American Civil War. There wasn't an American Civil War. I guess you could say, yeah, we did have an American Civil War. It was called the Revolutionary War.
That was when we revolution against, or Civil War against Britain, because we technically were British. But the Civil War should be called the War of Northern Aggression.
Well, we can say the war between the states and not polarize it. But during the 1860s, the Confederate states,
yeah,
acting of their own free will.
Because technically, if you could vote into this Constitution, this federal thingy.
Yeah, if
you could vote your way out.
If you had the freedom to join a union, then you should also have the freedom to leave that union. Otherwise, you didn't have freedom.
Yeah.
Right. So
they were kind of conned into it.
So hang on a second. So the Confederate States at the time, not even getting into the reasons why, what their motivations or anything else were, that doesn't really matter ultimately. And you're like, what? Slavery doesn't matter. No, really it doesn't. Not in this context, because what we're really discussing here is whether an individual or a group of individuals have a right to enter into some sort of arrangement or agreement.
Yeah.
If they do have that right and they are not being served adequately, there's a breach of contract in that arrangement. Do they have the right to exit from it? Going, wait a minute, we're not getting what we were signing up here for. We're going to go find some other way to arrange our affairs in the course of human events, etc., right?
Right.
Do people have the right to do that? If the Confederate States did not have the right to withdraw from the Union, then certainly the United States of America didn't have the right to withdraw from England.
Yeah.
See,
what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right?
Good for the gander. In any case, they had already established their own separate organization of states, a confederacy.
Ooh, that's really tall.
Of states.
You have a better ladder, right?
What?
You have a better ladder.
Yeah, but I don't need it for this.
Okay.
They had already established their own governmental system whenever the war between the states erupted, which means that the forces from the north, we're calling them Union, invaded a neighboring territory.
That's straight.
Occupied by people who had already attempted to send delegations to Washington, D.C. to treat with Abraham Lincoln to try to establish normal and sociable, friendly ties with the northern states.
Kind of like we tried to send people to England.
He refused to meet with the delegations.
He was such an asshole.
Wound up declaring war against them.
I don't think people realize how much of an asshole.
The War of Northern Aggression.
I don't think people realize how much of an asshole Lincoln was. It takes him that long to drill a screw. A screw drill. I mean, no, you know what I mean.
Now, this is kind of interesting.
Oh, there's two of them.
Did you know that the very first time that the organization of the several states together was referred to as a union? Do you know when that was?
Football. Give me what?
You know when it was?
When?
When they were referred to as a union? Somebody's got a bad time.
What? Football? You're outside? Relax. Dog being annoying.
So you don't know when it was?
Probably after the Civil War?
Nope. It was well before it.
Okay, so when they redid the Articles of Confederation?
Nope. But I'm glad you brought up the Articles.
And they made a constitution?
It was actually in the Articles of Confederation. They referred to the Association of States in the Confederacy as a union.
They did?
Yes, they did.
They didn't always do that?
I don't know. Well,
not in the Articles of Confederation, right?
As colonists, I don't think they referred to themselves as a union.
They had their separate colonies. Like they were British, but you could be a New Yorker, not a Connecticut, or you weren't American. You're a British Connecticut, or you're a British New Yorker. Ah.
Yeah, they actually referred to the organization of the several states as a union in the Articles of Confederation.
Oh, okay. So they were a union.
Yeah, they were a union before they scrapped the United States Constitution and adopted the monstrosity that we've been laboring under ever since.
Constitution. You know the weirdest
the first
thing.
United States Constitution was the Articles of Confederation. It was ratified in 1781. Established the country, the United States of America. That was the name of the country, all the way up until 1788.
Whiskey Rebellion?
Huh?
So.
That's just before. Hang on a second, you're getting ahead of yourself. 1788, when Alexander Hamilton, who was not from the continental United States, he was born in the Caribbean. Hello, dog.
Football.
He was born in the Caribbean. Of dubious parentage, although I don't know how that matters. He had been adopted by a wealthy man who's in shipping, a merchant. So he had the silver spoon syndrome. Wanted to make more money, so he established banks in New York. He had 2 banks in New York. Got involved with the Continental Congress and was talking him into doing some various schemes. One of which was, of course, going around buying up all of the war bonds from the Revolutionary War. Each individual state had its own war bonds once upon a time that they had issued to raise funds to fight off the British. And people were not incredibly confident about them getting paid off in a timely manner. Some states were paying them off more than others. They were paying them off, but the rate that they were getting paid off was, based upon when the money was coming in. And since there was no heavy-handed taxation at the time,
Right.
it was, we get the money when we get the funds when we get them, and then we pay.
Was it like tariffs or something?
Yeah. At the very first, it was all
Just a little bit of trade here and
imports,
there?
exports. The states controlled the ports, and that's how they generated revenue. And of course, you could always voluntarily donate money to the cause if you wanted to. Not many people did, but
That's how they got the bonds in the first place. So somebody donated.
that's how they got the bonds in the first place.
Right.
All right, so
Hamilton.
people who were holding bonds wanted to get money for their bonds because cash. Hamilton and his cronies, we'll say cronies here, which were many of the members
Bankers.
of the Continental Congress,
Cronies.
people who were connected politically, would go around and buy up those bonds at pennies on the dollar, sometimes as much as 10 cents on the dollar, at 10%, 10% of value, face value.
Well, that's nice of them.
And the people who held the bonds were like, oh, thank goodness, I'm gonna get some money back off of this investment.
So you donate $100 and you only get like 10 back,
what
but
they
it's
didn't
better than
know,
zero.
and what Hamilton and his buddies knew,
Yeah.
was that they were planning something, and what they were planning was to transform the I just did it again, didn't I? Transform the United States of America from the
There's no edit button.
oh, there's no edit button. From that confederacy of sovereign nations. Each state was its own sovereign nation.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
We technically should be, but states are like, I'll roll over.
He wanted to transform that
down.
into something called a federalism, a federal government. Just concentrate all the power in
Right.
one centralized location. And once they've done that, they can
The
do
papers.
the next step of the plan, which came about in 1790. See, they ratified the new Constitution in 1789.
The bank.
Right.
Right.
No, the Continental Congress.
First the Congress, then the bank.
Yeah, it would be the second Continental Congress that ratified the new Constitution in 1789, brought it back to the states, and people are wondering what in the heck is going on. What was wrong with the arrangement we had
They
before?
got conned.
Sir, what have you given us? Was the question, and
It should have been a con if you can keep it.
Benjamin Franklin says, "A republic, if you can keep it." Well,
A scam.
historically, republics always turn into empires and then they collapse. That's what happens.
I do protest.
There was only one guy at the Continental Congress that recognized what was going on.
I smell a rat.
And he said, "I smell a rat," and
That
he
guy.
walked out. He was the other representative from the state of Virginia.
You should stay there
one
and
Patrick Henry.
argued against
Jefferson
it.
went along with it, as liberty-minded as Jefferson was. I mean, he did write the Declaration of
I
Independence.
think he was getting paid. He was
Either-
in on it.
Either paid or what he was trying to accomplish, he was willing to compromise to get it.
Oh. That's how
Um,
it starts.
That's how it starts. As a matter of fact, the decision to relocate the capital from Philadelphia
Yeah.
to Washington was part of that compromise. The idea was we're going to move the capital closer to
The
Virginia.
middle. Oh. Sounds
Trying to kind of persuade the more southern states that everything's going to be okay. You're still going to be next to the capital. Next to the capital, whenever you have to get around on a horse, kind of meaningless. But hey, they took it for some unknown reason. I don't know why.
Oh, we could wall it off right now. Because there's a loop, a traffic loop that goes around DC.
Yeah,
And they put in
maybe part of the
walls.
reason why was
You
some of
wall
these
it
people
off.
might have been cut in on the deal, which is go buy up that war debt, pennies on the dollar, just buy it up. And the next step came in 1790. Now Hamilton, installed as the Secretary of the Treasury under the presidency of
okay, that's
George
where the bank
Washington,
comes in. Taxation.
proposes to the Continental Congress, hey, I've got a great idea.
What's that?
Let's,
Tax
since
people?
we now have this federal government, let's go ahead and take all of the war debt of the separate states and consolidate them and make them the
federal debt.
under the federal government, make it the federal debt. And so, since we have given ourselves the power to levy taxes in this new Constitution that we just wrote,
There's the
we
rub.
can now levy some taxes
The scheme.
and pay for that war debt.
But they had to say,
all
well,
of you guys that have been listening to me all this time, you're sitting here with your pockets full of these bonds at pennies on the dollar. You were smart to follow me here. So we're going to consolidate that debt, levy a tax to pay for it, and we get face value.
we'll call it a consumption tax of the naughty things.
Oh yeah, we're gonna pick something that people frown on anyway, which is liquor, that evil demon liquor. Yeah, horrible stuff. People
You wonder
shouldn't be
where
drinking that anyway.
Prohibition came from.
People shouldn't be drinking that. Well, that sentiment was still there. Liquor's dirty, liquor's nasty. Let's get rid of liquor. Let's do something to regulate liquor, because
But whiskey was a
you
currency.
had to run that rhetoric up the flagpole in the first place to get people behind the idea of establishing the tax on the whiskey in the first place.
It's not theft, it's tax.
Right.
Oh.
Otherwise, it would be pretty easy to see. Dude, you're
The tea, hello, in the ocean.
Yeah. We went to war over a 3% tax on.
You're not
on
gonna expect us
tea.
to get upset about our whiskey, which we use as currency.
Right.
Like, we don't have money, we have whiskey. We drink it or we trade it because it never goes bad, unlike the dollars apparently.
No, it's fuel, it's medicine, it's something you can use to while away those pleasant afternoons. Corn liquor.
I know they had corn up there.
But no matter what you're
Man, Troy's gotten tall.
no matter what you're using your whiskey for, it was universally recognized as having value. So it was being used for trade, even in places where you didn't even have coin.
So taxing it was like an insult, because then you have to go sell it to get coin, and then you're losing on that trade probably. Let's bring your coffee cup. Let's go make some more coffee.
All right.
Oh my god, this is like an hour.
Sorry.
No wait,
It didn't take so long.
no wait, it's 15 minutes, and I have an hour I can record. Oh, because I had too many videos. There's my ugly porch. Yeah, compost future.